Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So on that note,
Okay.
okay. So today, what we and I had emailed you Liz about this. What we were going to talk about was the possibility. Brandon, you're really cracking me up. Okay, so the possibility of expanding our Holocaust lit circles instead of just focusing on Holocaust literature, bringing in literature that deals with other examples of ethnic cleansing and genocide. And that, in order to kind of broaden that, I guess, their, I don't know, world views, and in order to broaden their minds a little. I know that some of us have been using like world news, like NPR, article of the week, things like that, in order to get them thinking culturally, but in bigger world picture. And this might be a way that we can expand that a little bit. I was looking, Liz, when I had emailed you about it, I know that you said just to make sure that we're not messing with the pacing.
Yeah, that we're not.
That we're not veering off
Yeah.
and doing something totally off springboard.
Right.
But I think that, we have kind of discussed it a little bit, and I think that we could still incorporate it. We just need to kind of think about questions about what, and I sent you guys some questions, whether or not we want to do this. How are we going to, how is it going to promote some kind of cultural awareness or sensitivity to diversity? Anyway, before I did speak with Carrie in the history department, and she was talking about how it fits really good because it's at the same time that they're doing the Trail of Tears and the Indian removal. And so she sent me a little bit of a blurb, and I know that she didn't send it to anyone else, so I'm going to go ahead and read it to you guys, because she's showing how it would fit into the history
What they're doing.
department, with what they're doing. And she said that they have an analysis of the Trail of Tears image, and I'm guessing the image she's talking about must be that pretty famous. There's a pretty famous painting of the Trail of Tears. Brandon, do you know?
I think it's the one with the Indian where his head's kind of.
Okay, that's what I was thinking.
I'm pretty
it was.
sure that's the one that they're referring to.
Okay, and she said there's also a Trail of Tears poem that they read at that time, and so after they analyze the two of those, what they help tell the story. She says, we help tell the story of how the Cherokee people were forced from their lands in the southeast. The U.S. government initially promised the Cherokee and other Native American tribes that if they could assimilate, they would be considered equals. But a new movement in the late 1820s, supported by President Jackson, promoted removal of Native Americans, from the eastern U.S. to the eastern U.S. The Indian Removal Act was passed in 1830, and it called for the tribes to leave peacefully. Feeling that the removal from their own lands was not an option, the vast majority of people stayed. When the deadline to leave passed, federal troops and state militia forcefully assembled the Cherokee people, letting them take nothing but the clothes on their back, and made them march 850 miles to new lands. Many died on the march, and it's known as the Trail of Tears, which lasted through one of the hardest winters the region has ever experienced. What do you guys think about tying that with the Holocaust? I know that last year I did have students mentioning this when we were talking about it. Did you guys have any students talking about it, or?
Yeah, because the book that we used for the Holocaust stories, the Voices of the Holocaust,
Yes.
the last few stories ties into the ethnic cleansing in Bosnia, and so they tag that, they recognize it when they see it there. They also talk about Rwanda, and then some of them have an idea of what what's been done in Iraq as well, but not everybody. Everybody's may have a little bit, but everybody has that. So that's been. It was easy to tag on to last year, at least the little bit that I did you know, bringing it forward, bringing it out of the 1940s
Yeah,
and forward.
yeah,
I've used it in the past in just when the kids start getting on the idea of, well, that would never happen here, or
Right.
how could that happen, or we would never do anything like that. And then it's an easy transition to say, really?
yeah.
Let's
yeah.
look at things. Let's look at our own personal history.
Yeah,
And I think that's a good transition. So I could see how that could really tie into giving them a broader knowledge base of just what's happening over there and tying it into our own history.
Well, that's one of the big questions is, could it happen here?
Yeah.
right.
So that's, you know, one of the big questions in the Holocaust unit that runs, it's got, what are those, there's 5 questions
Yeah, that
in the
could've
Voices of the
happened.
Holocaust, and so that's one of the questions.
Well, and I think that's how I set up a lot of my stuff last year, were those 5 questions, and that one question was, could it happen here? And then the other question that we kept going over the whole unit was, how? How could something like this happen? Because I think it was Heck, the Alphonse Heck one, who was talking about, he gives that speech at the end, or it's the little blurb at the end from the HBO documentary where he talks about specifically it happened because people didn't say anything, they didn't do anything, they didn't try to, you know, they just let it happen. And so I was thinking about it in relationship to, like, how can we expand that project a little bit, and this idea of that promoting cultural awareness and sensitivity specifically, because this year I'm noticing not a lot of sensitivity in my students, and so, you know, like, that might be a good way to promote that. I'm kind of curious, have any of your students even talked about this whole anti-Muslim, I have a student who has been really upset because I guess some of the other students have been saying things that are anti-Muslim to her. And it was a big issue like a month and a half ago, and it's not a big issue right now. Yeah, hang on.